On today's show, we get to talk about the first weekend that was for the Carolina Hurricanes at camp, looking at the new blue line duo of Sean Walker and Shane Gostisbehere, and get to hear Rod Brind'Amour's thoughts on the prospects and what we're looking at for a potential top six battle for the team. All that and more on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everyday for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed beat writer covering the Carolina Hurricanes at the Hockey Writers, along with doing some columns for the Chicago Wolves called Wolves Weekly, which will be starting here in a couple of weeks. I'm also the co-host of the Surgecast, a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Like I said, we get to talk about the early stuff that's going on with the Carolina Hurricanes at camp and how we already have a couple unfortunate injuries. Luckily, nothing too serious, but still waiting on confirmations of how long these might be. Also get to talk about the new blue line group of Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker and how they're already forming chemistry for the Carolina Hurricanes. And we also get to talk about prospects in terms of what names we should be looking out for and are there opportunities for them to make the main roster for the Hurricanes going into the start on October 11th against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But before we jump into all that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. But yeah, we are going to basically start talking about the early stuff that's coming out of the camp for the Carolina Hurricanes. And unfortunately, we do have injuries already happening for the Carolina Hurricanes as after the first day of on-ice activities with the back skate, it seemed like William Carrier kind of was laboring after the end of practice skate, and it seemed like he wasn't really comfortable, has been the last couple practices. And from what we've heard from Rod Brind'Amour is that they think things might have a little bit more sting to it, as in it was probably a little bit more than just cramps or something like that. They're saying it's, it is lower body, but in terms of that, it's just day to day and it's really nothing serious. So there is a good thing on that with William Carrier that it's not a super huge deal. Hopefully they give him a couple of days off. We do have a preseason game tomorrow on Tuesday. If he's back by then, great. If not, we all know he's kind of at this point like very penciled in or even like marker formed into the lineup. It's just being extra cautionary since we're so early in the training camp. There's no point of, rushing a guy back when we kind of know what his status is with the Carolina Hurricanes. One of the other guys that did get, it seemed injured, but we're not really sure what's going on. Is Scott Morrow. How back on the 20th, it seemed like that. Brind'Amour said that Morrow is feeling kind of funky, but he should hopefully be back. Obviously, he missed the last couple days as well for practice, and they're not really sure what it is. It's an undisclosed injury, so we're not particularly sure what the deal is with that. Hopefully, it's not one of those precaution things that the Hurricanes are doing. In terms of where Scott Morrow is in the depth chart of the defense, I wouldn't really be surprised if he's, like I said, we've talked about he's probably going to start the season in Chicago. Just where you're looking at for the Carolina Hurricanes and how the defensive blue line depth chart looks right now. Because at this point, you already know what your top six is going to be or your sixth defenseman. It's just going to be Slavin Burns, most likely Orlov Chatfield, just from what we've seen early on in training camp. And then it's Gostisbehere and Walker. And then it turns into who's your position for the top seven. Is it going to be a Riley Stillman, Joakim Ryan? Is it even also going to be someone like Ty Smith? So it's kind of one of the main things is, in terms of Scott Morrow, another guy I wouldn't really want to rush back, even if he's feeling funky and it's just, let's give him a couple days rest. Let's see how he's feeling by Monday. Hopefully he's back for the C2 practice. and see if he's ready to go for Tuesday night's, preseason game to kick off, all the preseason stuff. But in terms of all of that, it's, as of right now, it's undisclosed. Doesn't sound serious, but we're still waiting on like confirmations of what the thing is. Like I said, there's no point of rushing guys back, especially Mora, who's probably going to start the season in Chicago. William Carrier, you know, is probably going to start either on your third line or your fourth line just because of, the contract that he has with the Hurricanes, because we all know it's a 6-year, $2 million deal. If Jesper Fast didn't get hurt, Carrier was probably going to start on your fourth line. But with Fast out for the season, possibly Jack Roslovic going up to the second line, just from the lineups that we've seen in camp, Carey is probably going to be most likely starting the season on the third line, right wing with the Jordans. So it's just early precaution stuff for the Hurricanes. Don't really want to get too crazy with, like I said, trying to rush guys back when they really don't need to. So it's not something I really would be too worried about. Like I said, sounds like it's nothing serious, but they're kind of just hoping that it's hey, we're just going to keep it safe, not going to get too crazy with stuff like that. So that's kind of your early things with camp. You hate to see stuff like that so early on when you're talking about, you just got through the off season, just at the prospect showcase. You're getting the full team together finally. You're looking to see what the new guys are like. Like I said, with Roslovic and Carrier and the new defensive duo that they got there now. And it's just trying to, along with the other forwards that you brought in, like Tyson Jost, Eric Robinson, stuff like that. So you're just trying to figure out how your roster is, get through the first day of practice, get through the back skate, and then, just doing some shootout drills at the end, just trying to get everyone ready to go. And, you hate to see injuries so early, but it's just the unfortunate part of this is something that just happens. So hopefully, like I said, it's not like from what we've heard, nothing too crazy, just a lot of precaution stuff. So just something to keep an eye on for that. Now, talk about some new additions to the Carolina Hurricanes. Like I said, we do have a new blue line duo in Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker. And it seems like from everything that's coming around out of camp so far is that they've already started some chemistry. And it seems like they could be the third line duo, the third pairing duo for the Carolina Hurricanes to start the season. So we'll dive into more of that, talking about the new blue line duo here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, guys, we got to talk about PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And their PrizePicks puts their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks sit, I can get my money back quickly in just 15 minutes. The one good thing I'm looking forward to with PrizePicks is just being able to pick what players I think are going to do well in a number of games across, anything that's going on within the league. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. The one thing I like about Indeed is the fact that it's able to cater to what you're looking for in terms of the jobs that you want to apply for as an employee, but also as an employer. Just being able to learn about the qualifications and preferences that you're looking for helps you be able to find quality candidates. And that's what Indeed does for you. By leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Once again, that is Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire? Well, you just need to use Indeed. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So at the end of segment 1, I talked about how we're going to talk about the new blue line duo that the Carolina Hurricanes have brought in Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker. And it seems like early on in camp, they're already setting up some great chemistry, and I feel like it's going to be one of those very underrated defensive pairings that you're going to see around the NHL this season, and how just by talking to these two guys, you can already tell that the chemistry is already forming really well just by happenstance of being able to meet up this summer and being able to play with a couple organizations, beforehand, and now kind of already setting up what you could be a very good defensive pairing for the Carolina Hurricanes. When hearing about Sean Walker and Shane Gostisbehere getting together, talk about, being paired up for the first couple days and finding familiarity. And this is what even Shane Gostisbehere said. We were lucky enough that since I played in Philly and Walker played in Philly, we had some mutual friends and we actually met at a wedding this summer. It's great. He's a righty. I'm a lefty. I feel like we're kind of the same player in the sense that we're pretty offensive and we can skate pretty well. I think Walks is a heck of a player, and it'll be a pleasure to play with them. I think we'll use each other very wisely. And the good thing, too, is that, while Shane Gostisbehere is a left-handed shot, while Sean Walker's a right-handed spot, believe me, getting some right shot, right side defensemen are very tough to get. And the fact that the Hurricanes got a good one in Walker for the next 5 years is very, very huge. But also, too, these guys can play on both sides of the defensive line. So if they have to, depending on what type of area they're in on the ice, you can easily flip them around and stuff like that, or swap them when need be. But it's a good thing, the fact that both of them can play on different sides of the defensive pairings. But the fact that we're able to use them on their natural side definitely helps the Carolina Hurricanes as well. And that's good to see when you look at how Gostisbehere already thinks of Walker, and the fact, like we said, they both played at Philly at one point, and be able to meet up this summer, get to know each other a little bit more, but then just you're already finding their offensive side of the game where, they're both really good at the transition, while Gostisbehere is very more so on the offensive side of scoring goals. Well, he did put up 10 goals last season for the Red Wings. What is your power play one specialist, which right now, as we're seeing in camp, he's already going to be that guy for the Hurricanes. But you get someone in Walker who could easily use his services on the penalty kill side of things. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the PK1 group or PK2. And then, do you put him on the power play 2 unit, or you just let him run the PK and just get his minutes there and just be able to run the third pairing with Shane Gostisbehere. And it already looks like they're, working pretty well together and already, forming chemistry that's going to help the team early on. And the good thing, too, is even when they talked to Sean Walker, he even echoed some of those things as well, talking about being paired with, another newcomer-ish to the Hurricanes and Gostisbehere. Walker even said, we've been paired up together these first couple days, so just working through it. Having the trust together and just buying into the game plan is going to really help us be successful. I think bringing in Shane and I, they just want us to play our game. So they don't want us to change our identity, just be the players we can be out there. Stick to our strong assets and buy into the game plan, and I think we'll be successful. And, that's pretty clear from the outset. And the thing is, luckily for Walker, Shane Gostisbehere has already been part of the Hurricanes before, so he kind of knows the system a little bit better, and that's not a huge detriment to him. So I think that's going to help him out in that case. But then, having Gostisbehere there is probably going to help Walker kind of move along as he's getting used to the system as well. And of course, we already know that Gostisbehere bought into it the first time. He got traded over, did play pretty well for the Hurricanes back in the 22-23 season. And then when he was with Jalen Sheffield, now he's coming back, signed for a 3-year deal at $3.2 million. So that's going to be really beneficial for the Hurricanes. And like I said, for Walker, it's kind of nice that, while he's paired with a newcomer in Gostisbehere, Ghost has been there. He has done that for the Hurricanes. And so he's a little bit farther into the game than Walker is. But I think just being able for Sean to have someone like Shane help guide him into the system a little bit more on the defensive side. I think that's going to be something that is very underrated and very, beneficial for him to get the system a lot quicker, because we all know it takes a longer time for a defenseman to learn the system for the Carolina Hurricanes. But luckily with you have, Jacob Slavin, who's been there for a long time, knows how the system works. Chatfield's been here for a few seasons now, so he can definitely help out as well. Burns for a couple seasons. Orlov is coming to the last year of his deal, of his 2-year contract. So you do have some guys who figured it out last year, still kind of new-ish. But then you also have, the guys of Slavin and Chatfield being here for a few seasons, and now you have Gosper's coming back for a second stint. It's been there and done that. And having him on that same pair, it's going to help Walker out. And of course, let's be honest too. When you have Tim Gleason as your defensive coach, yeah, I think you're going to be pretty much set. So it's good to see the fact that you look at what the new blue line duo is going to be. So you got Shane, you got Sean. I'm really curious to see what the nicknames are going to be from the fans of the Ghost Walks line. Just to see how those guys are going to go together, because we have Ghost Bear. Apparently, we got Walks. I want to see some creative, nicknames from Hurricanes fans on, what that could be for Gosper's and Walker. So in the comments below, let me know what your potential nickname for the Ghost Walker, defensive pairing is going to be for the Carolina Hurricanes. But I even said it on Twitter too, that I've been, or X, however you want to call it, I've said I've been excited since these guys got signed with the Hurricanes, and the fact that you're going to already have them be somewhat paired together. I think that's going to be very huge for the Hurricanes in that, you got them at least locked up for at least 3 more seasons together. Walker's on that 5-year deal. Gosper's on that 3. So if you keep them together for the next 3 seasons, that's going to be awesome to have for the Carolina Hurricanes, because with Orlov and Burns' contract coming up the Bucks next year, apparently with Scott Morrow and, Alex Nikishin waiting in the wings, could you see a scenario where it could be a Slavin Nikishin, or it could be like a Slavin Chatfield on the top, and then it's a Ghost Walker second, then maybe a Morrow Nikishin, or is it going to be like a Slavin Morrow? Slavin Morrow wouldn't be bad either if you're looking in terms of what that looks like. Of course, that's a different conversation for today, but just kind of something to think about of, you could potentially see Gosper and Walker being together for the next 3 seasons at least. And think about, if they're already finding the chemistry now in year 1, just after a few days at camp, what does that look like 3 years down the road? And hopefully, we bring Gosper back on a contract extension with how good he's been playing with Walker. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on a lot of things. And it's definitely, something very exciting to watch as well if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. So I think overall it's going to be fun. I'm glad they kind of already got these guys paired together. So it's going to be really, really fun. Now, talking about prospects, there has been a lot of prospect talk coming out of camp already, and the fact that a lot of people are hoping that Raleigh Nadeau makes the team, or Jackson Blake, Felix Hunger-Storm. Scott Morrow, like I said, I don't really see that happening with where the defense is at, but there's been a lot of, with the transition year for the Hurricanes, do you see some prospects coming up and all that stuff? And there have been some interesting comments from Rod Brindamore on the potential of, some of these guys getting a chance to maybe make the roster next year. So make sure to stick around, as I will dive into the prospect talk and even discuss some potential top 6 battles in when it comes to Jack Roslovic. So stick around, as we'll talk about all that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page when you place your bets. You get started on $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, at the end of segment 2, we're going to talk about some prospects and potential top 6 battles. Now, coming out of the rookie showcase, I had an article going into it, actually, and then talking about how there's going to be some underrated players I think fans should watch for, and one of them is Noel Gunler. And then coming out of the rookie showcase, Yeah, I would say he did pretty well for all things considered when he was actually tied for points unofficially with the team with 5, had a goal and 4 assists, and that came after the first 2 games where he tied Gleb Cherkasov on being the guys that led the way for the Canes rookie prospects. So big shout out to Noah Gunler. Awesome to see how good he did. And the thing that I even said, like, he's one of those guys that I think that if he gets a really good shot at the rookie showcase and kind of, going into his last year of his current ELC, hopefully it works out to where he has a great year, gets him a boost, brings him back to Chicago because he played last year in the Liga in Finland, and hopefully be able to come back 100% healthy, ready to go, and maybe kicks off a fresh start for him with the Chicago Wolves this year. That kind of seems what it's like going to be working on the comeback. And Gunler even said, just being given the opportunity after this past offseason and how he did at the rookie showcase and all of that. He said, the past health issues are something that I've moved on from, and I'm just trying to learn from it. I just want to enjoy being back playing. And this is after he had a successful rookie showcase, and it's good to see that it kind of helped him out in terms of that aspect. And honestly, he did really make his presence very much felt for the Carolina Hurricanes and just of how he did at the rookie showcase. And even Darren York even took notice of it too, the associate general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes and the GM of the Chicago Wolves. York said the biggest thing for him, and he showed it this weekend, is that he needs to be hard to play against every single game. His ability to get on the forecheck or recover pucks was impressive. Him being harder to play against will allow him to have more opportunities offensively because of the strong forechecking ability. And that's something, like I said, you really want to see for a guy like Noah Gunler, who's really trying to make a bounce back, after dealing with injuries for the last couple of years, especially last year. He only played 24 games for Karpat in the SM Liga. So him having a good bounce back like that in the rookie showcase, I think gives him the confidence to come into training camp and being able to get him ready for the Chicago Wolves. Because while I think he is a dark horse like Cherkasov to make the Hurricanes roster, I wouldn't be surprised if we probably see Noah Gunler in some way with the Hurricanes if need be, or he just goes and plays the whole season in Chicago, shows out, does really well, and maybe gets another 2 or 3 year contract, stay with the organization, because I'm very high on him. Now, one of the other things that kind of came up over the weekend with the Carolina Hurricanes, and in that Rod Brunmore did meet with media and talked about the opportunities for some of the young guys to possibly make the Hurricanes roster out of camp. And I think this is something that fans were kind of taken aback by, because when you look at the roster now, you would kind of think of maybe a prospect or someone like one of those guys might make the main roster, just of we're in the middle of a transition for the team. A top 6 spot maybe for Bradley Nadeau, maybe Jackson Blake, or do you see Jackson Blake under Sorum kind of fighting for a top 9 role, maybe on the third line with the Jordans? This is what Red Brandmore said. We'll see. I think there's always opportunity when you have the youngsters that we have that we obviously think highly of. Maybe you're going to give them a little more of a look and see what it could be. But they have to kick somebody out. So they really have to be special. And if you're the Canes, if you're the fans of the team too, you're kind of taken aback by, okay, you're in a transition year. You would think you have more of maybe 1 or 2 prospects make the main roster, but as we've seen throughout camp, it's been Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis as your top line, Roslovic, Kakaniemi, Nietzsche, and then it's Martinook, Stahl. Tyson Jost has been in there since William Carey kind of got hurt last week. Then you have Brendan Lemieux, Jack Drury, and Eric Robinson, and Jost was part of rotating in with Robinson. So that's kind of like your top. Those are your forward core. So if they're not talking about someone's going to be a shoo-in for a prospect to make it and they have to kick somebody out, are you looking at a situation where Jost is like the 13th forward when Carrier comes back, and then it's going to be Svech, Aho, Jarvis, Roslovic, Kakaniemi, Nietzsche, the Jordans with William Carrier, and then is your 4th line Brendan Lemieux, Jack Drury, and Eric Robinson. Now, Robinson I really like because he's got some speed just along with Jack Roslovic, and I think their speed is very underrated. And we heard from Seth Jarvis that those guys are really fast. So if that's the case of Roslovic Robinson, two former Blue Jackets, kind of being in that situation, of course, with Roslovic coming from the Rangers, played for the Rangers last year, and Robinson played for the Sabres as well. If those guys are going to be in the main roster, and then probably Tyson Jost is your 13th forward, I mean, it makes sense to wire. If you're looking at a possible battle for a 13th forward spot, there's no reason to have one of the prospects up there because it just doesn't make sense to do that. And then, now you're talking about having to kick someone out of the main lineup. Do you take out Robinson and his speed and what he probably could do for the Hurricanes? I think that if they really showed out, I could see Robinson becoming one of the extra forwards along with Jost. And then it's okay, do you move Carrier back down to the fourth line? Do you move, does he go to the right side of Drury? And then it's Lemieux, Drury, and then Carrier. And then is it going to be like a Unger Storm or a Jackson Blake on the third line? Or is it going to be you're moving Jack Roslovic to the third line and you got a Bradley Nadeau or a Jackson Blake up on the top six? So, top 6 minutes are very huge for the Carolina Hurricanes, especially when you're trying to replace someone like Teuvo Teravainen. So I can see where Rod is coming from in terms of the fact that you have to play really well in preseason and do really well in camp to knock someone out of a starter role. Like I said, because if you're right now on the precipice of maybe making the roster as a 13th forward when you're a prospect, it's better to play in Chicago. So if you're not in the eyes of the coaches of the front office that you're playing really well, but you're not really there to be an everyday top 12 forward for the Hurricanes, there's no point of having you be in the press box whether you can get all your minutes in Chicago. But if you're going to show out like Seth Jarvis did back in 21-22, where he has to be on this roster, we can't send him back to juniors with the Portland Winterhawks. You have to almost do that, and it's already kind of tough as it is because you don't see a lot of guys doing that for the Hurricanes. So I see where Rod is coming from. But I also see where the fans are like, but with how the roster is constructed, it's a transition year. The Hurricanes maybe taking a half step back. Maybe you hear Eric Tulsky and all of them talk about, they want to give the youngsters a chance, but it's definitely we're not going to give it to you. It's an earned thing for the Hurricanes. And if one of the young guys does really well, but maybe doesn't have himself be a bona fide, you're going to have to play every day. And you're kind of looking at a bubble scenario of maybe making the roster. Maybe it's good to have you in Chicago. So that'll be very, very interesting to see. And like I said, for your top 6 battle, it could right now it's going to be either a prospect or you're looking at Jack Roslovic. And Roslovic, like I said, if he plays a more consistent game, plays how well he did when he was with the Rangers and what he did to the Hurricanes in the playoffs, and still keeps impressing Rod Brandamore and of course the other guys on the team like Seth Jarvis and all of them, I can see Roslovic putting himself into a situation where his speed, along with Nietzsche's and Kotkaniemi in the middle, could make a very sneaky second line. So definitely a thing to keep an eye on. But that will wrap up a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. And thank you to everyone for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, go and find Locked On NHL, where the local experts keep you updated daily on all the biggest storylines ahead of the season. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to follow me to keep up with everything with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Chicago Wolves, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. There's a link tree in my bio where you can find all my articles at the Hockey Writers talking about the Hurricanes and the Wolves. And then you can find the links to my other podcasts, the Searchcast. And with this show, you can just go find the podcast on all podcast platforms at Locked On Hurricanes. There's a link to the YouTube channel where you can look at Locked Up on Hurricanes there as well. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know that you like the show as well. And in the comments, do you feel like the Hurricanes should potentially look at a prospect more than have them fight for, a bubble spot? Do you think that they should have someone like a Blake or a Nadeau make the main roster in the transition year? And let me know your nickname of what a Ghost Walker defensive pairing would look like. Like, what would you nickname that pairing and all of that? Make sure to share this podcast with other Hurricanes fans to become everydayers just like you as well, because we are over 970 subscribers We are on the road to 1,000, and of course, more after that. But when we do hit 100, when we do hit 1,000 subscribers, I might do something special for you guys. But I hope everyone enjoyed this Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone's a great rest of their Monday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.